Go. Okay. What advice do you have about consuming news concerning the war?
Those interested in the war should seek to find multiple sources, find many different sources. One of the old rules of being a social studies teacher or a teacher of critical thinking in any manner is there's no such thing as a bad source, but individuals need to be aware of perspective and bias. So for example, if you are consuming a news report or watching something, reading something from Al Jazeera, you're likely to get an entirely different perspective on the same event if you were to go to and consume the Jerusalem Post. So it's important for critical thinkers to expose themselves to many, many different sources so that they have a comprehensive and diverse perspective on whatever news they are gathering, whatever news they are reading, whatever news they are watching.
Do you think America has a role?
Yes, I do. In my humble opinion, I believe the United States has a role as a peacemaker. The United States would like to see this conflict not grow any larger. They'd like to see loss of life limited. They'd like to see the humanitarian suffering of both sides limited to the best of their ability. So I think the United States, and they've been doing it, you've seen it with some of the diplomatic gestures from the Biden administration. They want to see both Israeli sovereignty protected and civilians protected, but they want to see Palestinians protected. So it's a complex game of trying to reshoot that one.
The second one, or
Yeah,
the whole thing?
Second one.
Okay, rolling. Okay. Describe the conversations in your class about the Israel-Hamas conflict.
The Monday that we came back from break, I showed a couple informational videos to give the students some background. We had some conversations about general questions like what's going on, why is it happening, and probably most plainly, what connection does this have to the United States? Particularly the AP kids, they were talking about, how do I want to describe it? Trying to decide why it was happening and which side was probably most to blame. I kind of had to navigate how to best describe what was going on without taking a strong stand on assessing blame to one side or the other, given that it's a pretty emotional topic that has elicited a lot of passions and reactions on both sides.
Okay.
You might have to retake that, but we'll do that later.
I thought that was good.
Okay.
Okay. What questions do your students have?
Like I said a moment ago, a lot of the questions are very general, like what's going on, even where is this, where is Gaza, why did Hamas do this, why is Israel responding in the manner they have. We try to trace some history and to explain why the two sides are in the conflict that they are. So it's geographical positioning, it's reasons for why the event is broken out, and then probably back to what connection does this have to the United States, or will this cause the United States to have to be involved or engaged in a war? Those are the pretty typical questions that I've received.
Okay, that was good. Do you feel prepared to answer the questions?
Yes I do. I recall taking a class on conflict in the Middle East when I was back in the day in college. I read a lot on the topic. I'm a pretty avid consumer of current events and just kind of topical news. So I felt like I was rather well informed to discuss and address the topics with my students, yes.
Okay, good. Do you generally try to incorporate current events into your discussion? Oh, oops, I gotta retake that. Do you generally try to incorporate Jesus.
Deep breath.
Okay. Do you generally try to incorporate current events into your discussions of history?
Yes, most definitely, because I believe any kind of skillful teacher should be able to do so. It helps the kids best cement some learning if they can understand that events that are happening in the contemporary can be traced back, and that there are similarities and differences, that there are analogies that can be made, that there are changes. So I think any social studies teacher, any teacher on the campus likely does their best to draw in contemporary current events, because that makes the learning more meaningful. It makes it easier for the kids to attach understanding to it and probably walk away with meaningful knowledge.
Okay, great. Now, go. What advice do you have about consuming? Wait, no, that's the wrong one. Okay. What advice do you have for students concerning news about the war?
I advocate students consume multiple sources. One of the old tricks of being a social studies teacher and being a critical thinker is there's no such thing as a bad source, but you do need to be cognizant of bias and perception in the source that you are consuming. For example, if you see a news report or read an article from Al Jazeera, there's a good chance that they're going to present an entirely different perspective on the same event than if you were to read the Jerusalem Post. So there's no such thing as a bad source, but critical consumers of the news need to be able to rely on multiple sources to form a more comprehensive and diverse perspective on whatever event they're exploring, particularly one that's, again, rather heated and controversial.
Okay. Okay, do you think America has a role?
The United States has a role as a peacemaker. We don't want to see this conflict grow any larger. It has already cost a lot of lives, and then there's lots of tragedy. The United States typically has a role, or historically has a role as a peacemaker, and in my humble opinion, I think that should continue. So you see some of the diplomatic messages going back and forth. The United States would like to see the conflict tamped down. They'd like to see the loss of life limited to the best of the warring parties, and perhaps find some kind of negotiated solution that could reduce the incidences of this in the future.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Go.